Welcome back to the Best Strategies Playbook course. Now let's move on to another strategy. This one is one of the best, actually one of the finest strategies that I have ever encountered and I have ever made air profits on. It has almost a 90% accuracy, 90% accuracy, and there is a big logic behind that. Let me get it through. Let me tell you what it is, and you will find it very interesting. And the logic behind, you need to understand the logic behind. You need to understand the logic behind. There's a huge logic why this strategy is so successful. So in this strategy, what we are going to do is use an indicator that is basically to find thrust bars. And what are the thrust bars? Thrust bars are basically any candles that are really huge or out of the range context. Out of the range means that it is moving with above the ATR, above the average true range indicators, right? So what that is basically, this is thrust bars indicator. I have also this indicator in my list as well. And what you do is you put this on this indicator and you search and mode. Right now we have either ATR or in points, so we will use ATR and use 14 points. So any candle that is 2 times above the last 14 average candle sizes, this indicator will indicate to us, right? So here you can see this is a candle, green one. As you can see, this is a huge one. This is a red candle. As we can see, this is a green candle. This is a red candle. And these are 2 green candles. These are 2 green candles, and this is 1 red candle. Now, let me focus on the strategy or the logic behind this. And you need to understand this. Now, let's look at this this document. So imagine this. When the price is moving in a range like this, you know this is a range. So when a huge spikes happen, immediately the candle goes really high. You now know who is in control. The buyers are in control, right? The buyers are in control in all this area. So now when the price comes back, where do you think the reaction would be? Would it be here at this area? Would it be at this area? Or would it be at this area, right? So what this thrust bar or the candle does is it creates an indifference between buyers and sellers, right? The buyers here dominate so much that when the price will come back, it will come back like this, and straight up it goes down to this area where the last buyers was seen, where the last buyer and seller fight was seen. The buyer and seller's fight was usually at the range area. This was the area when the price broke out, right? So when it comes back to that area, that would be the area where you will see a response, right? A response or a buyer coming back to it. So why doesn't it move back from here? Why doesn't it move back from this area? It is because the last area where it broke out, it created a big gap at this point, right? At this point, it created a huge gap over here. So when it does come back from this area, it will go directly down to this area, this range, and then it will spike back, right? Either it will spike back like this, right, and go above, or either it can spike high and then move back down to this area, move a little bit higher and then break down, retest from this area and then go down. So these are the 2 possibilities when this candle emerges, right? So let's move, let's see how we can trade this. There are either two ways. So when the candle goes high like this, and you are in a range at these area, you either do two things. Either you sell or either you wait to buy. Now, where do you sell? The most important thing is wait for the price to go down and move a little higher, right? Forming an M. Either the M, either this formation, or either this formation, right? You can either have a double top, or you can just make a new low, new higher low. So this is a new higher low, right? Similarly, when the price go back down, you wait for a new low to form, new higher low. Sorry, this is a higher low, right? This is a higher low. You wait for this to perform. Now, if the price goes above this, you do not trade, right? You do not trade. But what if the price comes back down from this area and now you trade? When it breaks this area, there is a huge possibility that it would go down to this range. There is a very, very good probability that it will go down from here to this area. Why so? Because we know there is a huge gap here. There is a huge gap, right? So either you can do this, you can sell from this area. And this strategy, by the way, is called mean reversion, because mean reversion is where you want the prices to go back, right? Where the prices go back to their original center of gravity. So this is where the center of gravity lies. This is where the most buyers and most transactions were happening. Now, this is one criteria. The second criteria is it is moving in range. It goes back up. Then it comes back down to this area. And when it comes down to this area, it spikes back up. You buy at this area. You buy at this area, put your stop loss over here. And over here, you would have sell at this area. You can either put your stop loss over here, or you could have put your stop loss over here, right? And this is also an area where there is a huge probability that it will go up. Why? Because we know there is a big gap over here. We know there is a gap over here. We know there is a gap over here. So the seller opportunity would be there as well, and the buyer opportunity would be there as well, right? Now, what if this happens? The price goes up, then it comes back, gives us very small reaction, and then falls back, comes up, and then goes down. It hits your stop loss, right? Does it? Yes, it does. Because this was a range. This is where it was supposed to be a buy. It went up, a little bit reaction, and then came back down, hit your stop loss over here, and then moved back up and then went down. Now, what can you do? You hit your first stop loss, and then when it comes back again to this area, which was initially the support, and now it is a resistance. So when it comes back to resistance, it makes another entry. You can make another entry, right? And this can go very good, very long, and your profits can be running. So this is number one situation. This is number two. And this is number three. Now you got the point? Okay, before moving on to the charts, I just wanted to show you, I have this indicator, which is alert, thrust bar, scanner, and dashboard. So basically what it does is, it uses different, I don't have net for now. I'll use it in a while. Okay. What it does is it creates these candles, and you have a scanner over here. So for instance, you have 28 currency pairs, and you use it to find out among 4 time frames. Let us suppose M30, H1, H4, and day 1. So you have 28 currency pairs and 4 time frames. What this indicator would do, and I'll show you in a bit, what this indicator would do is it will search for those any currency pair in which time frame any of these thrust bars that are being made. So it will also indicate to you through email, through SMS, and through notification as well. 28 currency pairs you can use, and actually you can use more than that as well. But any currency pairs that you want to evaluate or you want to see, it can work, right? So you can set any one of them, and when the any thrust bar is made in any of them in any time frame, it will indicate to you, right? So let's move on to the chart. So here you see okay. Let's look at this one. This one. So a red candle, green candle was made, and what happened is an M was formed, right? An M was formed. This is exactly this situation. Number 1, when the candle went up and made a new higher low, it went back down from there and to the area where the range was formed, isn't it? So your range was here at this area, right? This area. The price went up from here, then it came down, and then it went a little bit up, and then it came crashing down. So what you could have done is, when it made a higher low, you waited the price to go up a little bit, and then when it came down at this point, you could have entered over here, and there was a huge gap. This was a huge gap, right? And it went coming down. This TP, this you can make as a TP, right? Then what happened? Then what happened? You consider this. This is another resistance, right? A red candle was formed. Then it went down from this area. Do remember this area. This was the range. This was our range. This area, right? The previous one. It went high, down from there, came back up. This is the hammer, right? This area came back up in the same region, right? When it broke down, it came back up, it came back down, right? To our next TP, isn't it? What type of situation is this? This is precisely our second part. This was the range. Although we took at this level, this is actually, let's consider this one. There was a range here, right? The candle went a little bit down. Then this thrust bar happens. This is the thrust bar, the bullish one, or you can say a bearish, in our case, the bearish one. not the bearish one, the bullish one, and then it came back down to that area and then went up, right? Similarly, in our situation, this is the bearish one. What happened was, this was the range. This was the range, right? Then a bearish candle happened. This went up. Do not consider this one at this time, right? Do not consider this candle at this time. Do consider this candle only, this thrust bar. What happened is, it went down, broke the support, came back up, and then went down again. Right? This was the position where you could have taken your trade. Isn't it? This candle went back up to this area and then came back down. Where? To where? Our next support, this area. And then it came back up. So this can be righted. And this was a huge point for you because there was no major support at this point, and you could have traded that as well. Right? Got my point? Now, consider this one. Where is the range? This area. It could have come anywhere in this area, right? So what is the condition? This one. A range formed. A thrust bar happened. It came back to that region and went back up. Did it? Yes. It did. Look at this. It came back down to this region and went back up. To where point? To where? The next resistance, this line. It went back to at least this point. Isn't it? So this is another condition we can see. Over here, a green candle. What happened? Came back to the region. Although we can say the resistance, there was a huge support at this point. This would not have been a very good trade, but it did work. It did work. It went back up and in the same region and then came back down. 358 points. To where? Next support. Here was the support, right? This was the support. Here you can see a reaction from here and another reaction from here. It was. Okay. Another example. Okay. Here's another example. And since it's not always the case that you trade all, it will come down to those areas. When it comes down to that area, it will flag back. But if it doesn't, you don't take a trade. So here the price went up, never came back to this area. It came back after a while, and when it did came back, listen, look at this area. Right? This area. It went back up, didn't came back down immediately, but when it did, there was a reaction. There was a reaction, right? There was a reaction at the bottom as well. This was the area. If you could have put this down, because there was a reaction at this level as well. A little bit higher than this. A reaction to this as well. Then it went back down. right? When it came back down through the thrust bar, it came back to the same region and there was a reaction. Could you see the reaction? There is a reaction down from here, then again down from here, right? Another one. Let's zoom out of this a bit. Our range area, big range area, this candle broke through it, then came back to this area. Did it react? Yes, it did. At least to this resistance, yes, it did. And up above, you can ride your profits. Then again, a resistance came down, came back to this point, almost there. But when it will come to this rectangle, this area, it will give a reaction. Let me just clear this out a bit. This area, you can see. Well, we forgot one more thing. We did forget one more thing. We can consider our first criteria as well. How? Look back again. Look closely. So this candle broke, went down, came back up, came back a little down, and then break through it. How? Went back down, came back up. This was the high, right? This was the high, but the closing was a little bit down. Didn't it make a W, an inverted M? Then it went crossing this area. As you can see, it went up high at this point. Then the closing was at this point, right? So we could have waited here after the closing of this candle. If the price went down and then just broke this area, we could have stayed away from that. But it did break this. It did break this. Then retested again and then went up to our range area. So this profit can be made. We can make this profit, this area, around 400 points, 300 points at least, 400 points. This could have been a very good profit, right? How about this one? Green candle up, came down, then came a little bit higher. Yes, isn't this an M? It came back down, went higher, and then break this area. This area, right? Didn't it? A complete M. Look at this. Straight up, went down, came back up, and then break again. So entry again at this level, at this point, when the candle broke this and went to our range. Did it? Over here as well. But it's not that clear. You could have traded this one, this area. It was reluctant to go back. It came back down, then up, then down, and it needed to break that. It broke. The closing were all the closing were below that, and then it broke over here at this point, at this candle. So let me put this one. So this was the area. It came back down from here. M top was there. This area came back down, Then it went down. It did break some part, but the closing were all down. Then it broke over here. It retested over here. Then it went back to the area, the range area, right? So you can do this as well. Over here. So these candles you can also trade these candles. We are actually using ATR 2.0. When you change a bit, change this to 1.5, there would be much more candles. See? New candles have emerged. So right, we were talking about this area. As you can see, there was a range here. There was a range at this level, wasn't it? A huge reaction from this area, right? When it came back to this area, right? When it came back to this area, it flew away. Isn't it? When it came back to this area, look at this one. Came back to this area, it flew away again. So this bar we won't count because it is closing at about the peak of the range. Although there was a small retest and it went back up. This was candle also closed among the range, but a little outside of it. This was the range area. It went back in and then went back down. Didn't it? So this is how you can actually use these thrust bars to have a very, very profitable trades. Very profitable trades. I'll see you in the next lecture.